Hi, my name is Sherry Ray. I'm a coach and a consultant. My practice is streamlined to support my clients in eliminating struggle in their personal and professional lives and replacing that struggle with joy. In these conversations, we bring together men and women to discuss universal topics we face in being human. The intention of these conversations is to support you in having a richer experience of life and to promote shifts in consciousness as we put our attention on love, creativity, peace, and many other topics. So, thank you for coming to today's conversation. Today's conversation is titled, Are You Intoxicated by Your Preferences? So often we work to live to get our preferences met, but is this life expanding? I hope you gain fresh information and find this information helpful to you in your life.
Again, thanks for coming. And the conversation today is are you intoxicated by your preferences? And this was just a really curious, fun conversation. I mean, insight that I got because Lord knows all my life I was trying to get preferences and then give myself permission to have preferences and then require that my preferences be met, by me, pick your preferences. Don't just pick your preferences. So, so it was a hot topic for me for a very long time. And I thought it was a very important topic in my life at the time. And so I wanted to kind of start today's conversation about in two things, like to ask you to just share what you feel is like your current definition of freedom.
Ah,
Like, what is your current definition of freedom? And do preferences play any part in that freedom? And how your mind has set it up? And is there a relationship between the two? So just ask the question about like, what's your current definition of freedom? And do preferences play into that? So it's just a moment of reflection, just to kind of see where you might be holding it. And really kind of waking up to how your mind is holding it, because so our world gets created in our head before we ever step out the door. So I like to see how our, and we think it's the world. That's why I think it's so funny. We think it's the world telling us how it operates, but it really is our head has manufactured this world, and then we step into it and think it's brick and mortar. It's such a clever little machine we live in. So anybody care to share about what your current definition of freedom is? Yes, please.
um, so my 77th birthday is next month, and my story to myself for preferences has always been, I finished working in my 60s, and so in my 70s, I'd be running barefoot and wild and having a great time and painting and creating and generally not being tethered to a desk or to traveling all the time for jobs.
Mhm.
And so my definition of freedom has always been not obligated to meet somebody else's demands, mostly professionally. So
Mhm. Mhm.
um, that's not happening yet. And I've got another year to a year and a half before I'm finished with these last two jobs. So the constraint I'm feeling because of my old expectations and preferences for how I was going to do this, um, race to the finish line is totally, it's not there and it's boggling. So, um, yeah, my
Excellent.
preferences are playing a huge part in my definition of, or not paying any part in my the definition of freedom because I'm not able to do what I think I want to do.
Okay. Okay. Great. It's not happening. Okay. Great, thank you. Anybody else?
I would say mine is that being able to live the way I want to live and where I want to live is a big part of my idea of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess also being able to do what I want to do. And, without constraint certainly is one thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so from that piece, you get to live the way you want and where you want. And how has your mind set that up when that happens? Where's the pot of gold in living the way you want and where you want?
So I guess I kind of started working on that maybe in my 40s.
Mhm.
And then didn't really, this is kind of like my third career that I kind of fell into. And I guess it was, I don't know if it was fate or what, but things just kind of worked out. And so now I do property management.
Mhm.
So right now I'm in South Lake Tahoe, and I get to be here for about 5 months a year, and during the summertime.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I used to be in Houston and go to your place in the Heights. But now I'm in New Orleans, and so do half the year there and half the year here. So
Mhm.
that was a big thing for me to reach that, and it does feel really good.
Excellent. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Your current definition of freedom and how preferences play in that.
My idea for my sense of freedom is when my mind is quiet.
Excellent. Excellent.
And there
Excellent.
are no, all so if that's my sense of freedom, then when my mind is not quiet, I have a choice. I can either be taken along with whatever the thoughts are, or I don't. And sometimes I do. I get in the middle of it for a few minutes without realizing, but it doesn't usually last. Because once I was clear that the quiet mind is just really nice. I can just move through life. More and more, I know what that feels like.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it feels like an empty head, which is kind of an odd thing, but that's what it is. It's space. It's just space, and it's space for anything.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I really was resistant to that question, even to create a definition. And I think the truth is that my definition of freedom that I don't want to admit that I live by is kind of not being told by others what to do, and kind of just sort of sitting and doing nothing is a probably a big part of my definition of freedom, even though I really don't believe I'm free when I'm doing it. I mean, but
Uh-huh.
it's like a reaction to all the burdens that I carry. It's like, I'm just gonna not do anything today. And it's an assertion, but also I think I need to do some of that,
Mm-hmm.
So, the where preference comes in, I mean, I learned a certain definition of freedom through painting. And what I'm realizing, how it kicks in my life is different. And yeah, I mean, I think I still think if no one's telling me what to do, I'm free.
That's a great thing. I mean, that's a great thing to notice. That your mind set it up that it, that it's up. I mean, like it's up for not for negotiation, but even the fact that it may come and go. Freedom would come and go. in your life, you know, regardless of if people are telling you what to do or not. It's a constant and it's always present.
When I follow through on my definition of freedom, I don't feel good necessarily. That's what's interesting.
Exactly. Kind of. So that's the part that I was kind of playing with to look at, was how our mind has set it up. You know, our mind has set it up, like in this particular situation, our mind has set it up, or your mind has set it up about people need to not tell me what to do in order for me to feel free. And what's be interesting and everyone on this conversation and in this definition of freedom, it's good to see that it's not universal how your mind set it up, because nobody else has mentioned that, and it doesn't make it good or bad. It's just saying that your mind set it up that people telling you what to do has some sort of impact on your inherent birthright to be free, and that has to not happen for you to feel free. And your preference is I'm guessing your preference would be that no one tell you what to do, so you could feel free and do what you say. Like the mind set it up, like the preference is to do nothing, you know.
Well, and that's kind of where the tension is, because I don't want to do nothing, but there's a fear kind of wrapped in there. And I think I was raised to do what I was told to do, and breaking away from that and going to something that is an aspiration, but I'm afraid of, it's like it paralyzes me. So rather than doing what I might be inclined to do, I just do nothing.
And so doing nothing doesn't feel good all the time.
Right.
Okay. Great. So I think in this place of noticing about preferences is that first of all, you don't have to fight for your preferences. You can have them. You know what I mean? To come back to that place of freedom about, wait a minute. I can have my preferences. You don't have to earn your preferences. You just have them, whatever that is, you know, whatever that might be for you. So back to that point about, you don't have to wait until someone's not telling you what to do nothing. If you want to do nothing, you can do nothing regardless of someone standing there saying, you know, whatever they might be saying. You see? So it's a good thing to kind of wake up to how our minds create our definition of freedom. And then it sets up that we have to counter the definition that it created. You see what I mean? We have to do some sort of actions as the antidote for what our mind set up as freedom. Which, yes.
In this day and time, is there any such thing as true freedom? I mean, we're so, emails and texts and Instagram and TV and scam calls. And, when I think about, well, how could I be free? I think of Walden Pond or someplace up in the mountains, or, detached and off the grid. And that's not possible if you have a family. And I mean, I don't know. I've been thinking so much about how do I get freedom within the construct of my obligations and preferences, and I don't see it. I mean, I don't know how you do it now, the way our society's structured.
And oh, yes. Bobby,
I think it's an inside job.
say more about that.
Well, I don't think that what's going on outside of me has anything to do with my freedom. I might be wrong about this, because I've been sitting here thinking, definition of freedom, I don't even know what that means to me. But I don't think it has anything to do with what's outside of me, or what's happening around me. I think it's Yeah, yeah, I always like hearing what you have to say about most anything, but yeah. So yeah, that resonated also as far as because I know I can be very resistive to whatever's happening in my head, and whatever I'm making up about what's happening out here, and but mostly in my head. So I think I'm not sure what it what it means, but I think I'm the one that gives myself permission to be free. And but I'm not really sure what that looks like or how that, that's just it's just a hunch.
No, totally, totally, totally. Because I think it's our relationship with everything, our relationship with our thinking, and it's our relationship with what's happening in the world is where the core of our freedom resides. Our relationship with everything. And but most importantly, the relationship with what comes into my own mind is the apex of freedom. Because I'm not in control of what comes into my mind, and I'm not in control of what happens in the world. But my relationship with all of it is a place to begin to really see where you could have free will and choice, and always have the opportunity to redefine everything. That's all such so many good points. And so with this part about being, do you get intoxicated by your preferences? It's to really be able to see if your mind is setting up that things have to be a certain way for you to be okay, or for you to be free. Certain things, wherever those things might be, things in your head or things in the world. It's like, well, I would be happier if, I'll be happier when, somehow when this place of freedom, or this place of peace, or this place of wholeness, even your place of wholeness on the planet, somehow it looks like just being really catching on about how our mind sets things up, and then we live inside them. I used to think for a long time, I was like, oh my goodness, if I could just get things my way, nirvana, I've reached it. You know what I mean? And then what to that point about if I relate to that one so much, because I remember even being a kid or a teenager or something like that, and it's like, okay, there's only two people on the planet that will ever tell me what to do. And it was a mom and a dad, and there will be nobody beyond those two people that will ever be telling me what to do, So I've set that up as a preference that by God, there will be no person telling me what to do, or I'm even going to weigh in on their 2 cents. And then, of course, I got very rebellious against anybody who thought they could tell me what to do, because my mind had set it up that the whole world was going to be trying to tell me what to do the rest of my life, because I just had a real preference to not be told what to do all the time as someone coming up in the world.
So would that mean that you weren't free to take information from somebody or to take instruction from somebody?
Oh, and my preferences, I wouldn't even listen. It's like, oh, hell to the no. Talk to the hand. Because my mind had already kind of put a filter that everybody that was trying to tell me something was either telling me what I was doing wrong, or was telling me how I needed to do it. And because my mind set it up as having that filter between input, that somebody's always trying to tell me what to do or tell me what I'm doing wrong, I was like, not receptive. And so, but all of that was happening inside my head. You see what I mean? It wasn't happening in the world. It was just happening in the world created inside my head.
Yeah.
the world created inside our heads. So in that place of if we're really striving to get our preferences met before we can be at peace, or striving to work so hard to get things in place so I can relax, or, you know, gosh, trying to move mountains to get things in the right place before I can take a deep breath and claim some calm in my life. That's the place where I'm inviting you to get wise to how your mind is setting up your preferences. And it intoxicates you to think that because it's a great salesperson. I think our thinking mind is the best politician and salesperson out there, because it really does convince us of things if we don't see it for just what it is, you know, an idea, a concept, and a notion, and even really seeing the source of who created that innocently. Like me thinking nobody's ever going to tell me what to do. I said that I innocently created that out of a, I don't know, a reaction to what I made about my circumstances. So, and even in that place where if we do get things just right, and we have all of our preferences, we've accomplished that, getting all things in the right place. The next thing I really wanted you to see was how you're cutting yourself off from life. How once, you know, we work so hard to get that recipe card filled, and then all of a sudden we're trapped inside those preferences, and we're not open and receptive to what else life might want to bring forward. And I got this great insight via, you know, food. And this is how the insight came to me. It was like, the insight came to me that my preferences were like one piece of pizza. And I was like, by God, I get to eat that piece of pizza. That's my piece of pizza. I can get it the way I want, you know? And really, and it was like, it was so like within 24 hours, I thought I had a sleep, and I woke up the next day, and my wisdom inside kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, why would you settle for one piece when you could eat the whole pizza? And how I heard that was like my preferences were all in that one piece of pizza, and life was offering me the whole pizza pie. Eat every piece of the pizza. Don't just stop with one thing, my preferences. If you could be open to everything that might want to present in your life. I know it's a crazy insight when it comes to food, but that's just how my insight, my intuition gives me insight. It's like limitation. Don't just think you can only eat one piece of the pie to be okay. Eat the whole thing. Be open to life. You know what I mean? Be open to life, not thinking it has to be this way for me to be okay. That's such a great point about the even being in the battle, but in between whoever's witnessing the preferences and the preferences, there's a battle going on between that. Who, you know, they have to be met. This is what they are. They have to be met for me to be okay. I don't know how many beings are inside of our head having these conversations. you notice how loud it gets up there. Yeah. So in that place of the freedom is in being present to life and what's happening, and still being fully confident and aware that you're more than prepared for what this life has gotten you. You're not at all dependent on your circumstances for feeling peaceful, for feeling vibrant and full. They will never be on the outside of you. And that just knowing where your mind built a fence around you. And fences, and I use that as synonymous with limitations, like somehow in this life, there's a limitation to what might want to present in your life, and or a limitation in you responding to what's presenting in your life. And what if that's not true at all?
I got stuck on the pizza analogy.
You know, it's lunchtime.
Yeah, it's one piece of pizza or the whole pie. Well, I can tell you why. I mean, but so I mean, I get what you're saying, but I don't get the deal about the pie. That's
Like I said, I think that's a great part about insights. It's like, just let them work their way through you. If you think you've heard something, you don't need to do anything with it. And before long, you'll get the rest of the story, you'll get whoever that used to be that says now for the rest of the story,
Oh, Harvey.
Yes,
Yeah.
that you'll get a piece, but it will go ahead and deliver the rest of whatever the insight is. You'll get it if something taps you on the shoulder. But I just saw preferences as me limiting myself to one piece of pizza when the universe is saying eat the whole thing. You could have all kinds of great stuff come into your life if you didn't say no. I certainly heard a lot with people in my clients and in seeking a romantic relationship, or even people in a committed relationship. They really believe that person needs to fulfill their preferences for them to have a really harmonious relationship. It's like, oh my God, that's just a prescription for suffering right there.
What's the difference between preferences and expectations?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Wow.
The most misery in my life has been caused by my expectations. I mean, if I look at all the messes and the failures and the learning experiences that were not so great, it all had to do with my expectations.
Exactly. I would say that's a great thing that expectations and preferences could be synonymous. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it could be so, we can be so intoxicated by our expectations. Preferences, same thing, but the intoxication that it's innocent, that it's so innocent that we've carried expectations on life or on people. It's so innocent until we get a chance to wake up to them and realize that they're just not, to me, that can be like Chernobyl between people, you know what I mean? It can just be such toxicity between individuals, and it's innocent really on the person with the expectations. Because we think I think in this life we get this opportunity to wake up to all this stuff. And we can have expectations all day long, but we can certainly live in more peace with it, with knowing they don't have to be met for me to be happy. And they don't need to be met for that person to be a whole, complete human being. And it doesn't mean anything about me that they're not meeting my expectations. And I love what you said. You notice that expectations have been a real source of suffering.
All right. My problem.
Is that how they've shown up for you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they've been the bane of my happy existence because I was an only child. And so I didn't have real relationships that I had to work through very often. So I thought everybody had to show up a certain way according to me.
Mhm.
What makes you
Mhm.
valuable? Well, I'll tell you what makes you valuable. You know, like, and I would project my preferences, wants, and needs onto anybody entering my life. And of course, they didn't stand a chance. First of all, they didn't know what I was expecting because I kept it a secret. And then it's a recipe for failure. And
Mhm.
yeah, I'm still trying to learn to let go. I just got a dose this morning, a huge dose of expectations not being met. And I realized I did it again. I fell into that thinking that because I want to feel this certain way, you're supposed to help me do that.
Yes.
You're supposed to
Yes.
feed directly into my bliss and my needs and wants. And, you know, what a hard lesson. I mean, that's my biggest lesson, I think, this go round is just letting people be who they are and meet people where they are, meet things where they are.
And I think we get to wake up that we really get a chance to wake up that we have an expectation that they're going to perform or deliver in the same way that my mind would have me perform and deliver.
Right.
And they're operating under their own set of their own separate reality of what's expected or what's desired or what's needed, you know. But I think that's so funny. I saw a meme not too long ago where it's like, oh my gosh, I expect everybody to be me.
Yeah. Oh my God. Hell. That would be hell.
You know, and it's like, oh no, not that I think the world needs more of me, but I'm just saying that and how the thought structure goes, you know, in the world that I created inside my own head. I think that's the intoxicating part. I think everybody's world is just like the world that lives inside my head.
Yeah.
And it's just not. And it's just not. And that's, like I said, I love that correlation between getting intoxicated by it, just really get intoxicated by our own thinking and realizing, getting a chance to wake up that it's just my thinking. It's just my thought created world inside my head. It's just mine.
So my definition of freedom has always been, no, my definition of freedom now is to not expect anything from anybody, just let it all flow. And I suck at letting things flow. So, you know, I think that's from this, I'm gathering that I'm causing my own feelings of not having any freedom because I expect people to honor my feelings of freedom at all times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When that could be even elusive to ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, but we know when we don't hit it. We know when we don't hit it, but we certainly expect others to see it when we can't even have our own clarity around it. But we know it when it's not being met.
Right.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I think all that part about holding it loosely, especially when you have responsibilities, and especially when it's your responsibility to follow up, whether it's personal or professional. And it's the the expectation that people have your work ethic or people have your your definition of what is a reasonable response time, all those kind of things are expectations, which are great, but you have to really see that they're yours. Doesn't stop you from following up, and it doesn't stop you from saying what the heck or other such words. But just it helps you be a little more connective to these people when you realize these are your expectations, but they don't need to stop you from following up. You just don't suffer as much from them not following up. You still do what you do, but you don't suffer as much because you don't have the expectation they're working from the same uh, operating manual that you are. And that's we're talking professionally, but transfer that to the personal level too,
Yes.
Then the price of poker goes up when it gets personal, for sure. At least it looks like it does to me, in the suffering department of the people that don't meet your expectation in your personal world. We take it. It looks to me like in my world, it seems it has a bit more of a sting than in a professional setting.
Imagine that.
Imagine that, huh? Yeah, yeah. No, thank you for that. Does that help about expectations? That seeing that they're where they reside and
Yeah,
how
it takes so much effort to have them too. You know, it's exhausting having all these expectations and preferences and, you know, yeah.
Right, right. So it's like I like that part about like, okay, I wake up to preferences and expectations. What if when I wake up to them, I can come back to the point where it's like, wait a minute, I am more than equipped for everything my life will present me with. So I could relax and be able to move more freely in the flow of life versus anticipate running in the head, trying to get ahead of all of it to be okay. That you can relax, you can relax knowing that you're more than equipped for this life. And instead of doing that, running the bases to make sure you're covered, regardless of what happens. And I don't know about in y'all's world, but I can run the bases for everything that could possibly go wrong. And the one thing that does go wrong is right in between all those scenarios I ran in my head, which filled my head up with a whole lot of stuff, which is absolutely my mood drops when the more I have in my head, the more I'm carrying, trying to, mitigate potential hiccups. But if you know you've got what it takes and your mind is freer, you'll have fresher information to respond to what needs to happen at the time it happens, if something happens. And you're more than equipped. And when I say equipped too, you're more than equipped to respond in the moment, and you're more than equipped to be given your next step in the moment. Even if it's not the answer, you're given the next step. And can you really feel that on the inside? That you're more than equipped for the life you've been given. Excellent. It's like, I love that whole part, like we're all an acorn, an acorn has everything it needs. We're just another element in nature, just like an acorn has all the wisdom it needs and potential to be a fabulous oak tree. Yeah, it needs some water, but all the wisdom is in there for it to fulfill its mission in life.
You know how you sort of only notice something because you have something contrasting with it?
Yeah.
So something recently happened to me, because for a while back, I had kind of got to this place of have no expectations of anyone. But then what came to me just in the last week or so is that, but I still hadn't really given up my preferences. I had no expectations that they would do or be the way I thought they ought to be. But then I was like, well, ready to reject them. And so, oh yeah, I don't like this kind of person. They're out, and now I'm getting to have a different experience of that. So like, for instance, I got paired up in this professional training thing with this person who it's become clear to me as we've been meeting over Zoom for the last couple of weeks, she wants to be in control rather than learn something new. And at first I thought, well, God, I need to get rid of her as a partner. I need another partner. And maybe I do need another partner for doing what I want to do with it. But it occurs to me, how can I be in a loving relationship with this person and let her stay in control if she wants to be in control? Like, I don't know. It's just an interesting thought. Accepting her for exactly who she is, and not. And it occurs to me that you probably have to do that when you're facilitating painting.
Sure,
right? If there'll be
sure.
people, they don't want to lose control, and you have to love them anyway, even while they're still being in control. And you know what I mean?
Yep.
So
Yep. And there's like so many things in what you said, because it's like, first of all, for somebody who, for your example, this person that has a real desire or need to be in control, there's an innocence to them needing to be in control, you know? And that's not a place of judgment, but it's like, wow, they really have a need to call the shots on this. I think the second part is like this person showing up as they're showing up per my judgments, you know what I mean? My judgments of how they're showing up. I gotta claim
Right.
that one too. That my head makes up that they're controlling things. Is that am I gonna let my judgments of this person take my peace off the table? You see, it's like I'm not willing to forfeit my peace for somebody showing up the way they show up. You know, so it's not like I can't make requests or ask to do things differently, and you know, maybe they'll change and maybe they won't change. But to me, it comes back to going, if I could be curious about this person, knowing that there's somewhere in that person, there's a level of innocence, just like in me, that what they're doing is making sense to them. And I don't want to give up my peace for how they're showing up. What's in this for me to learn?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm kind of falling right now. Like I'm like, well, what about this? You know, I don't know, because like a long time ago when I was teaching ballet and all that sort of stuff, and other ballet teachers too, like they'll give you a correction, they'll give you another correction, they'll give you another correction. If you don't take any of them, they quit giving you corrections. They just ignore you from then on out. You know. And even with the teaching that I do now, it's like, you know, I've told you that, you know, I don't say this out loud, but in my head it goes, you know, I've told you this 10 million times. They're not going to do it. So quit talking about it, you know? So there's got to be some kind of balance in there, you know, like, because I don't think the quit talking about it or ignore that person because they're not going to listen anyway is
Right.
the right way to do it. On the other hand, you don't want to just keep beating your head against a brick wall.
No, but what you can do is it's like, how clean can I come to any conversation with this person? You know what I mean? How clean can I come into this conversation to possibly see something other than what I think about this person? You know, I just kind of like that idea, but what if there's something to see other than what I've made up about this person? And they still may just push back, push back, push back, push back, push back. And, you know, you get tired of the pushback. You're like, you know, but I see where you're standing and I'm going to move on down the road and I wish you the best. You know what I mean? But it's kind of like free of judgment going, you know, I just don't want to play that. That's just not for me. I'll just put it like that. Not in a place of judgment. It's just like, that's just not for me.
Yeah.
But I think you can stay in that conversation a longer if it's like, you know, people with the expectations. If we have all these expectations and think they need to be met, or how preferences on how people need to show up for me to interact with them, it's like, wow, what if I test that theory? What if people don't have to be any different than they are in the sense of I don't have to just keep Xing people out of my life. Now I can.
Yeah.
You know, but sometimes the knee-jerk reaction, the first responder is like, cut them out of your life. And it's like, well, maybe there's something in this for me to learn and grow through. And I can still walk away. Nothing says don't walk away if you're, but that the preference would be like, we set it up like, if they don't meet my expectations, it's like one strike and you're out. You know, and it's like, you know, I can use this for my own little laboratory of seeing what my mind is making up. And if I'm moving in the direction of freedom, or if I'm moving in the direction of, by God, I got to be right. And I'm going to fight it till I get this person on board that says you're right. No, I don't want to work that hard. There's 7.5 billion people in the world. There's plenty of people to interact with.
Yeah,
And it's kind of funny too that you get these pairings you get put with, you know, out of every other human being in the universe, you get paired with this person that might just have you, you know, launch an inquiry within yourself.
yeah, that's right, that's right.
And you know, there was this came up at the last workshop, and Michelle said this, and I just thought it was so poignant, and it keeps echoing in my head. It was like, I'm not a parent, but I loved what she said. She's like, you know, you didn't design your children, but you love them anyway. So it's like all these people in the world, you didn't get a chance to design them, or the people that came in your life, and you don't need to be at peace or to be free.
Mhm.
And I thought that was so kind of just drop the penny on that one about you know, people don't have to be different, and your preferences don't have to be met for you to find more freedom and peace in your own life.
Thanks.
Anybody else have any other comments or anything? These are great.
I do.
Please.
A lot of things, it's amazing what happens in these conversations. I'm always just like, the stuff that comes in. So I just realized that because I've used that expression, that's like talking to a brick wall. Well, who decided that was a brick wall?
Exactly.
You know, and it's funny because like to be able to use that image, like to put it over somebody that I think is a brick wall, well, then maybe I'll have a choice of taking the wall down. I keep thinking it's their wall.
Yes. Yes.
That I put up there.
Yes.
I had something earlier that I have to share just because it's a new thought, and I don't know that I've ever had this thought before. So as I grew up, the people around me were not happy people, and that was just how they were. And I remember thinking at times like, well, that's a weird way to go through life. But I never said anything, of course, because I could never defend anything, because all I would do is cry, because it meant it was like way down here in me. Well, in listening to this, for some reason, I've started working as a practitioner with the 3 principles, and I have a client, and I got paid, and somebody told me that would be a good idea, because there has to be an exchange, and it's just so much fun, and I thought, okay, I want to name my practice. So with a friend yesterday, we were talking about it, throwing it around, and it came up with a shift in perspective. Because I realized in my life, that's all that's changed. Everything else changes when I shift the perspective, because it all looks different and I'm different. But I just loved that. It just spoke right to my heart. And sitting here today, I realized there was nothing wrong with you years ago. You were perfect just the way you were. And then all the years that I tried to change me and change my husband and change my child, the only reason I wanted to do that was because there was something wrong with me, I thought. And I thought, wow, all that was perspective. It was the way that I looked at it. I just didn't know how to reorient the lens so that I could get clarity. And that's pretty amazing at 77 to be able to look at myself and go, you know what? There was never anything wrong with you. And the fact that even though I thought there was, I could walk away from that part of my mind and do what I was going to do anyway. I don't know how that works. I'm amazed when I look back at the stuff that I did, and it's like, how did you have the guts to do that? But I did, and it ended up being wonderful. So That's just in the last, what, 20 minutes? I got all that. It's like, that's why I keep doing these calls, because it's like every time there's the same information in so many different ways that I always find one that reorients that lens for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you all.
Yeah, no, I mean, that sobers us from that intoxication, you know what I mean? You know, that there's something wrong here, there's something out of whack, there's something wrong with me. You know, and
Yeah.
it's like, what if there's not?
Right. Oh, I even tried to take my son, to one or two different, I don't even know what they were. One was a tutor, one was, and on the way there, he would always tell me, Mom, there's nothing wrong with me. And I'm like, I didn't say there was something wrong with you. Well, that's bullshit. Because obviously I was doing that because I thought there was something that needed fixing. Or, oh God, but he knew. It's like, there's nothing wrong with me. Hey.
I know, I just love it. The whole intoxication of the human experience, we took it all lighter, we took it all lighter and just saw it as part of the human experience, where there's just a part of us that wants to make a problem.
Yeah.
If something I'm not in agreement with, it immediately goes into the problem bin.
Right.
I gotta go to work on it, gotta go to work on it, gotta go to work on it, gotta fix it for me to be okay, for me to be a better person, for me to be thought of more highly, for me to be whatever, taken out of the bitch column or whatever you look more acceptable in the big blue book of life or something. I don't know, because I know all of us were raised under a whole lot of expectation. Innocent.
Mr. Kelly died, by the way.
Do what?
Mr. Kelly died recently. He was like 96. Kelly's Blue Book.
Oh, really? The one that put value on everything. The one that put value on every automobile. That's great. That's a great parallel. I love it.
It's kind of like, well, now what?
Yeah, just claim your value. You don't need the blue book. You're a fabulous whole human being because you're right here, right now, Yeah, wake me up. Just wake me up some more. That's what all these conversations are. It's just something that get a chance to, I got tapped on the shoulder to wake up to. And I'm so grateful you guys come and have a conversation about it. It just brings such a beautiful community of human beings together to just get a little looser about the whole game of life, hopefully.
Maybe you ought to rename these wake-up calls.
Oh, maybe.
Going for a wake-up call.
Maybe that would be great. That's a great one. That's a great one. Well, that's super. Anybody have anything just last minute you'd like to say before we sign off? Yes, please.
Well, mine's a question and it might take a minute. It's like, okay, so now I ditch my definition of freedom that I didn't even know I held, which is, nobody can tell me what to do, to some other, what's my new definition that I'm working with? And it really, a lot of times my sacred time is the morning. And today I had a long morning. I didn't have to do anything until I came onto this call. And I had this expectation that, it was going to be a luxurious time and I can do whatever I want. I'm totally free. And it kind of was a shitty morning just because I didn't have anything to do and I watched too much politics and et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, anyway, you can't tell me. I have to figure it out myself. But yeah, what is the definition of freedom that I want to have, I guess?
Yeah. And I don't know, you need one. What that's one concept you don't even need to have, just moment to moment, knowing you can pick anything, do anything. And if something suggests otherwise,
I get the whole pizza.
The whole pizza, the whole pizza. At any moment, choice and free will, you get the whole pizza. Yes, yeah. I
I've been
love it.
trying to think of that song, and it's Bobby McGee. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose.
Yep, yep, yep. And you got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I have someone in my community who just lost her adult son. He died totally unexpectedly, and then 3 weeks later, she fell off fell off a horse and broke her back. So now she's in the hospital for 2 weeks, and she's posting on Facebook photographs of herself in the hospital. And I mean, I'm truly inspired by, and it's this Bobby McGee kind of definition. It's like I am seeing freedom in her. I mean, she's lost everything, and yet she's still happy to be alive. I mean, it's really, whoa, something to learn from.
That is a very extreme but very poignant example of circumstances don't need to be a certain way. Preferences don't need to be a certain way. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Well, great. Well, we'll have another call next month. And if you're free, I'd love for you to come and be such a beautiful contributing member of the community. I appreciate your time more than I can say.
What a fun conversation. I'm so glad you've taken a listen and joined in. We offer these conversations every month, so I'd love for you to join in live and in person. Again, my name is Sherry Ray. I'm a consultant and coach, and I look forward to hearing from you. Please share with me if you have any comments or questions about what we talked about. You can reach me at sherry@sherryray.com.